If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 361 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka the Pod God, the Legend, joined today by the Jessica McCaskill of Irish MMA Media, Graham McDonald, as we talk about an interesting weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. Massive card next week, and you know what, we might even talk a small bit about boxing, although, you know, myself and Graham tried to avoid that as much as we can, but it was hard to avoid it this weekend anyway. But we will get to all of that. Before we do, we must tell you that summer is here, the sun is shining, shorts are off, and your balls are smooth, or at least they should be. You heard that right. Your friends at Manscaped are here to make sure your balls are beach ready and smooth as the Floridian sand. In summer, you want to kill some cold beers and barbecues, not kill the vibe with pubes peeking out of your trunks. That's why Manscaped has a Performance Package 4.0 to help the party in your pants keep looking crisp and refreshing all summer long. Dive head first into summer by joining the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, and get ready for hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com/ no, just use the promo code SevereMMA. Will that work? Manscaped.com/ SevereMMA. Maybe it will. Try it out. If not, just go to manscaped.com, use the promo code SevereMMA, and get 20% off plus free shipping. This Performance Package 4.0 is fantastic. Everything you need for the perfect summer bod. It has that Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, which trims your ear and nose hair, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, and the Crop Reviver Toner, as well as a Performance Boxer Briefs and that travel bag. That Lawnmower 4.0, amazing stuff. Advanced skin safe technology, 7,000 RPM motor, multifunction on and off travel lock, as well as a 4000K LED spotlight when you need a bit of a more precise shave. It's waterproof too, did you know that? So you can fucking get it done underwater if you want. Once your downstairs has been taken care of, try the liquid formulations then as well. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and stay cool in the summer heat, and the Crop Reviver to get your garden back to tip-top shape. The two free gifts then are amazing too, the boxers and the shed travel bag that you will bring at your comfort. Want to take your grooming game even further? Take a look at Manscaped Shears 2.0, a package that is everything you need to cut pristine nails. Nail cutters, tweezers and grooming scissors are with that. With the Performance Package, your balls will be ready to impress, but make sure you cover the rest with the Shears 2.0 and you'll be ready to perform from head to toe. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the promo code SevereMMA. This is the summer to turn your package into a full package with manscaped.com. Right, Graham, let's talk some combat sports. You know, we will obviously get into the MMA, but I have to talk about that madness at the Katie Taylor fight last night. And I know you didn't stay up for it, but I'll maybe talk about it quickly, but also the Tyson Fury bout last weekend. It's very interesting to compare it and look at what we have in mixed martial arts these days, and you know, and see the difference between what we had kind of maybe growing up in the sport and what we kind of have now, because we used to always talk about MMA making the big fights, MMA making the big nights, and boxing kind of avoiding them at all costs. Now, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, I think I'm not as much in the know about the boxing scene and the women's boxing scene as well, but everyone kind of was saying that is the big fight, you know, that is the big fight to make, and they made it. Tyson Fury, okay, him and Joshua Usyk is the big one, but obviously Josh and Usyk have to rematch, but him against Dillian White sold out, maybe not sold out, but sold 90,000 at Wembley or close to that as well. They're making massive fights, whereas MMA is not selling out stadiums. Maybe it could, but they're not doing it. they're even not making the massive fights that we want to see. They haven't been able to make Jones versus Ngannou. They weren't able to keep Khabib around. They weren't able to make Khabib versus Usman. Or GSP versus Anderson never happened. Or GSP versus Jones never happened.
They haven't even really, to me, recently even seemed to try very hard to make any of these happen. They just seem, whatever.
And I look, a lot of that is down. We said this, I actually heard someone saying, I think it was Ariel who was saying it this week. We've been saying it for a long time. And Dave Meltzer as well, fair play to him, has been saying it for a long time. It's because of this ESPN deal where they're getting 500,000 buys for every pay-per-view, regardless of how many they sell. They the equivalent of that amount of money from ESPN, or have already gotten it. And all they're doing is for fulfilling the nights. Now, it's actually making a lot of sense for ESPN because the card's been selling very well. Mostly to do with the pandemic, I would say, but the UFC have realised, and they know that they don't need to put on these bonkers cards all the time. Now, some cards are still very good, and some fights are still very good. That's kind of the nature of MMA, I suppose. But it just feels like, as you kind of alluded to there, the UFC are holding back a little bit. And look, they're holding back because of for a number of different factors. I think the major holdback for them is not paying the fighters enough, because someone like a John Jones, you could say, okay, they did make the John Jones and Ngannou fight, and I'm sure a lot of people will probably say, well, they tried to, and John Jones refused to fight. Well, if you're offering peanuts to fight, John Jones is not just going to go and fight, nor he should,
If you compare it to, like, for example, just popped into my head of Lorenzo basically taking over the negotiations for Fedor and offering him, like, what was it, $30 million for 5 fights, or $30 million for 6 fights, or something along those lines, 5 or 6 million a fight. Like, that's when you're actually trying to make it happen. And Fedor didn't accept it or whatever, wanted a co-promotion, and the UFC could literally say, okay, we tried our best, and it wasn't to be. But with these other ones, the John Jones and Ngannou one, did they really try? Did they think, we're going to have to pay these guys more, so we might not bother doing this at the moment? You know what I mean? As you said, when you're guaranteed kind of the same amount of money either way, where's the incentive to go kind of all out to make these bouts happen, or to sign like the Fedors, or to put together I think they did try back in the day to put together Anderson Silva and GSP, and kind of GSP kind of, if I move up, I'm never going to move down, so wait a while, and it just kind of went like that. But they did actually try. But I think the Ngannou Jones thing is more of a showing the public that you tried without actually really trying, in my opinion.
100%. I remember the Conor DMs as well with Dana, like Conor was trying to get fights. And
I still don't understand what was going on there. It's to me, it's mind-boggling.
It's very odd, because like, even if you have someone, well, maybe not now necessarily, obviously with the injury, but at that stage, was that during the pandemic? I think it was, where McGregor was trying to get that season. He was trying to get back.
It was directly after the Cerrone January fight, so it was like, just when the kind of, he wanted to get in there before the pandemic even hit, and when the pandemic was hitting, and everybody didn't really know what was going on, and all along, like, so I don't know what the motivation is here. Is the motivation basically like keep the wages down, or keep the pay down at all costs? It seems to be.
With Conor as well, they wanted to make a big gate off of him, and obviously when the pandemic was there and they couldn't sell tickets, that was a big issue, because they're not making money from pay-per-view.
But when if they're selling the pay-per-view in a pandemic, at the time when there was no other sports, like UFC were the first sport to kind of
but they aren't making the money from the pay-per-view. ESPN is making the money from the pay-per-view. Yeah. So that means ESPN would have to stump up to get McGregor if they wanted him, and I'm sure they're not doing that. They've already paid their money, so it's down to the UFC to provide that. So that, like, the UFC have zero incentive apart from the massive gate that McGregor would sell, and maybe the advertising and stuff like that as well. But with no gate available, they weren't going to do it, and they just iced him for a long while. And Ariel as well this week was talking about him icing Nate Diaz. I would say more than likely because he's on the last fight of his contract, and they want him maybe to fight McGregor. The UFC, everything that we came up, and MMA fans maybe of our era came up loving that it's not boxing, it doesn't have all these titles, it doesn't have all this politics, has kind of turned around, and now it is all of this nearly.
Yeah, and now, Dana was so proud to proclaim that regularly about how we'll never be like boxing, where we'll just put on a bunch of fights nobody cares about, and and this is exactly kind of what they're doing.
It's still not as bad with boxing in that way. No.
It's on the way though. It's on the way.
It is on the way, and it feels like boxing has kind of realised not necessarily the errors of its ways, but it realized, everyone used to say, oh, boxing is dying. And for a while it was, in terms of like people caring about it, or, being emotionally invested in terms of the top fights, because we wanted to see Pacquiao versus Mayweather for years and years and years, and it didn't happen until, they were both old. It was still a, good bout, and there were still good fighters when it happened, but still, now it feels like those bouts are actually happening. Now, maybe at heavyweight a little bit, maybe not, but it seems like they're happening more and more. You hear boxing people talking about, oh, this is one of the best, fighting one of the best, maybe even if we don't know him, or not a boxing expert or anything like that. And MMA might be the other way around, and I hope that's a thing that's changing, and I kind of think it needs to. But anyway, I suppose if you look at the popularity of the sport in the UK, it's very interesting as well, with Tyson Fury obviously selling out, with Anthony Joshua selling out. Even if you look at WWE are coming to Cardiff, and all indications are that they are going to sell out. I think tickets went on sale Friday, I'm not sure, but they're doing a massive stadium over there as well. Eddie Hearn talking about coming to Croke Park, and we'll get to Katie Taylor in a second. But the UFC to have not done a stadium show around here in the UK or in Ireland, especially with McGregor, they had it with McGregor, and they refused to do it, or not doing one in America. We see Dallas Cowboy Stadium being used a few times for boxing before, and it's I think it's just crazy. The UFC to be so settled in their ways is actually a really bad thing, I think. The UFC need to change things up a little bit. They need to get a little bit different. They need to get a little bit funky. That's what MMA is all about.
Yeah, less formulaic, I think, is the real. And
in a world as well where we are so formulaic, every card is the exact same. I was saying it last week there about, you go back and you watch a fight from Fight Island, and you wouldn't know if it's a fight in Fight Island. You wouldn't know if it's a fight in the Apex. You wouldn't know if it's a fight in, in Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever it might be. It's the same over and over and over. Like Bellator last week put on one in Hawaii, and you knew it was in Hawaii. They were all wearing Hawaiian shirts. They had the hula or whatever you want to call it for Lima Lane McFarlane when she came out, and things. Like the UFC need to improve on that, and it's a big thing. Like those epic walkouts we saw for Tyson Fury, it was too much, and it was mad and all, but why not a bit more of that? Like everyone.
Do you remember the Strike Force walkouts? They used to make a big kind of song and dance about it, and make it a little bit different, and it did feel a little bit special. This fight means something more, even if you're a casual who's never heard of the guys, you just tuned in. It looks like a bigger deal. Yeah, it looks like a bigger event. Like boxing, have a good on the big bouts, like the Furies, the Joshua's, they have a proper walk in, everything kind of builds up. It seems like it's a bigger event than it usually is with boxing, and to a casual who's not really too interested either way, that will make them stay and watch and keep them interested, I think, more than just an average walk in the UFC, and they're just kind of listing off a few stats, and the guy's walking in and getting Vaseline on his face, and that's about it. Like
the problem as well is we are in the UFC looking at a company owning a major part of the sport and cutting costs to try to get everything down to just produce what they need to produce to earn money the way they need to do it. They're not looking at it as an entertainment brand anymore, and that.
But they've shown glimpses of it, like they did the Sinead O'Connor and the Chad Mendes guy.
Long time ago, though.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and Dana did say at the time that they'd probably do it on occasion again, but it didn't materialize, and obviously things seem to have changed. It is kind of like nickel and diming, as they say. Indeed it is.
But that Katie Taylor bout last night, it was absolutely it was unbelievable, one of the best I've ever seen. Maybe with the worst commentary I've ever seen as well. Like I called you Jessica McCaskill coming in there, and I know you didn't see it, but she was commentating, and she fought Katie Taylor before and lost to her, and honest to God, it was like Katie Taylor had never thrown a punch in her life, and certainly didn't throw one during the 20 minutes of this bout, because it was just like, Katie whiffs on another one. Oh, here Serrano's landing. Serrano lands the left. Like literally, there was one round where Katie Taylor just boxed the ears off her, And she didn't mention one punch through the whole thing. It was like Daniel Cormier at times 1,000. She was worse than Mike Loughnane, I described her as, which is the ultimate in terms of sporting commentary. But
if you want to feel a little bit better about the UFC commentary, just some of the boxing commentary over the years, some of the bias and some of the scorecards that come up, you're just like mid fight. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I think as well though, Sky's commentary can be a bit off as well, but Sky's production is so much better, especially than DAZN. And BT last week I thought was horrendous for the most part. But anyway, Katie Taylor, if people didn't see it, she almost got knocked out. I think it was in the 4th round. You know, barely kept up. She kind of kept up by pushing herself against Serrano, and Serrano almost held her up at one stage, and she kept going and going, but Serrano got tired from then, and they kept saying in the commentary, oh, Serrano's taking rounds off, and you could see as clear as day she was tired, and Katie Taylor won 4 rounds in a row then at the end. Obviously it was only a 10-round fight, so winning 4 rounds in a row, all she had to do really was get 2 rounds before, and she got that on 2 judges' cards, which I think she deserved. She definitely won the first, in my opinion, and then one of the either the second or third. The first 3 were very close, but I thought Katie Taylor did enough. You know, it was I obviously I'm not an expert in the boxing criteria or anything like that, but the fella they had on the commentary talking about it was talking about the damage meaning more, and I didn't think Serrano landed that much damage, honestly. She was landing shots alright, but she was landing 1 shot and Katie Taylor was landing like 5 or 6, and I didn't notice a massive hurtful nature to her shots apart from the round where she almost knocked Katie out. So you know, some people are calling robbery and everything like that, and I am massively biased, I won't lie. I didn't think I was, but whichever, Katie, it didn't matter. Katie Taylor put on another epic display. She's absolutely brilliant, and if they don't bring her back to Croke Park and don't bring on a massive fight, maybe the rematch now, it's an absolute travesty. Like, honestly, I think the way Eddie Hearn has promoted her has been god-awful. And maybe this is the weirdest time of all to say it, considering she just had the biggest fight of all time in MSG. But up until now, like, that was her 21st fight. Katie Taylor was a star in Ireland before she made her pro debut. And now I know the issues we talked about killing and all and
about
putting on
10
boxing
years before she made her pro debut.
True, but putting on boxing in Ireland has been hard and everything like that. But God almighty, to let it go 21 fights before she has this big massive fight. I think I was talking to the lads and they did a preview show on Spaces last night, and honestly it felt like America was more invested in Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano in this bout than Ireland was. Now, you had people from Ireland, obviously, and a lot of people were madly up for it in Ireland. But I think a lot of people, the fact it's on DAZN, the fact it's on 3 o'clock in the morning obviously doesn't help, and we've seen that down through the years with McGregor fights and MMA and things. But I just feel like the way Eddie Hearn has kind of promoted her and the fact she's not on Sky anymore was a big issue, and maybe it'll change again because of that amazing bout and people will see it back. But I just think you had what McGregor had, what the UFC had with McGregor, but I think almost in a bigger way in terms of like Katie Taylor is universally loved, and you could have had something massive there with her, and you just don't in Ireland. Like, you have someone who's still universally loved, who everyone has massive time for, but like, have you maximized the amount of money you and her have made off of that? I don't think you have, but however, maybe that's a conversation for a different day. But it should be a conversation for now if you're Katie Taylor and her representatives, because she hasn't long left. You know, Katie Taylor's, a few years ago, she would have blown Serrano out of the water altogether, I think. Katie Taylor is not the boxer she once was, and she's still one, in my opinion. She's still absolutely brilliant, take nothing away from her, but she's been a long time on the road. She's been boxing a long time. She mightn't be the oldest in the world, or she's only 21 fights, but how many amateur fights does she have? She's been going for years and years and years and years.
How many rounds?
Yeah. And I would have hoped one last big fight. Sometimes we always talk about retirements and we always talk about people going out too quickly and so Katie Taylor is different, and I know maybe I do anyway, have more of an emotional attachment to her and all, and I don't want to see her getting hurt, and I don't want to see her going too long and losing. Like, have that one fight in Croke Park, make a lot of money, sail off into the sunset. I would absolutely love to see that happening, and it'd be absolutely brilliant. But
do you think her headlining against, like, for example, a rematch of this Serrano bout would be able to sell out, or close to sell out Croke Park?
I think so, yeah.
You do?
I definitely think so. Do you not think so, no?
I don't know. It depends on how much it costs people. I think, like, Irish people, will, for example, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago or more, the Irish women's hockey team were doing okay in the World Cup or something, and everybody was everybody was talking about, everybody jumped on the bandwagon kind of thing.
Katie Taylor.
When it actually comes to pulling €80 out of your pocket, I don't know if 60,000 people are going to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit more than that, but look, when you're in a place like Croke Park, you can have different price tickets as well. I think, like, literally they could sell tickets up the top for 30 or 40 quid. I think they would do that as well. I think they had the tickets in Wembley and other places, they are cheaper, so yeah, look, the tickets down low and stuff are going to be there, but I do, and especially as well if it's, this is Katie Taylor's retirement fight, this is our big homecoming even, if you promote it the right way, which I think they probably would if they were doing that. I definitely think it would sell, absolutely, because this might be the only opportunity.
I'm definitely not a boxing guy or anything, but it seems like, you're saying that this girl is one of the best in the world, is close, disputed decision. It seems like now would be the time, if they're going to do it in the big stadium in Croke Park, for example. Now would be the time to do it, because if she rematches this girl and wins, then some other girl that people haven't really heard of, I think it sounds like it's now or never, really. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. They need to do it now. And if Eddie Hearn doesn't do it now, as I said, it's ineptitude of the highest order. It needs to be done. It's great time as well, with obviously the Kinahan stuff and everything like that, and he's out of the picture, and MTK is kind of gone. Keep all of those people who are still even part of that, or are talking about being part of that, keep all of them away from it. You only need to put on Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. You don't need an undercard on this one, but it'd be absolutely epic. And you could get some good Irish boxers on it as well. And they put Katie Taylor on an undercard before when she was an amateur. You could get Kelly Harrington on it as an amateur, and then the big bout, and you could get others as well. I'm sure it'd be epic. And let's make it happen. We better talk about MMA. We're halfway through the podcast and we haven't mentioned it yet. We'll do a quick recap of last night. It wasn't the most brilliant card in the world. A lot of the undercards are pretty good, and then we'll talk about UFC 274 as well, and some of the other mixed martial arts that went down. Just a quick run through the undercard. Shayna Young defeated Gina Mazzani in the women's flyweight division. Lovely ground and pound, hitting the arms, but a good stoppage there in that one. And Nathan Levy had some lovely head kicks and then some lovely heel hooks as well. Bit of wrestling in round 3, but Brennan came back in the last round. He did a great job, but Levy hung on to win, and he goes 7-1. My guy Spencer Kai was telling me he's not the best prospect in the world, but I like him. I think he's good. He can do it all, but still he's getting on. He's 30 years of age. He'll have to have a few fights pretty quickly. Gabe Green got a massive comeback against Johan Lanise. It was another one of these ones where Lanise was winning, and then he got really, really, really tired, and he wilted. I still think he's a great prospect. I compared him to Sean Brady last night, and that quickly went wrong, but that cardio was an issue. It was a real issue, and he ended up losing, I think, because of the cardio for a big part, but also, Green pushed him, and a great win for Gabe Green there. Francisco Trinaldo in 125 pounds. He made very light work of Daniel Da Silva.
Figueiredo.
What did I say?
Trinaldo.
Francisco Trinaldo. Oh yeah, Figueiredo. My apologies. Silva win for the takedown. They got a little bit of separation, and then Figu win for the leg lock, and that was that. Basically a beautiful
slick knee bar.
Knee bar. People want it. People want the knee bar. Then we had the biggest underdog in UFC history, Chase Sherman against Alexander Romanov. And Chase Sherman does what Chase Sherman does here. Look, Romanov, tell me what you think it is, Chase, the finish it is, before I say it. What do you think?
I think he just gave up.
Yeah, I do too. That's the second fight in a row where he's just given up. But, You wouldn't blame him, I suppose, for
It
giving
looked
up.
like it was going one way, in fairness, but
it
was. He could have at least waited till it was properly on before he tapped.
That is exactly true. It's like
another couple of seconds, and then you can make it look like I was stuck in this.
Yeah. Pro wrestler would have done a better job of selling that one than he did. Yeah, it just wasn't even. It's not that it wasn't near being on, but it wasn't on when he tapped. And he was 35-1 for the first round KO, and I know a lot of people had it, but he was. I think we all knew he was almost certainly going to lose. But Romanov, we could look over this and look at what we just said, but Romanov is a top prospect in that division at 16-0, and not even a prospect anymore. He's probably a contender now. He's probably going to be in the rankings, as we come up. And I think they were talking about his physicality as well improving. He looked good, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he had his way, and he did everything he had to do. But there's a lot better guys than Chase Sherman in the UFC, and it'd be interesting to see him step up. He's been in the UFC kind of fighting middle of the road guys the last 4 or 5 fights, and he's got the job done, and one technical split decision in there. So it's hard to say how good he is when he hasn't come up against much resistance yet. We haven't seen him in much trouble against somebody who is a well-rounded guy. So it'd be interesting to see. But beating up guys like Chase Sherman, who he made him quit, but as you said, Chase Sherman's kind of done it before. So you can't take too much away. But I'm interested to see him step up against somebody maybe low rankings or just outside the rankings. Yeah,
I would agree. I tend to really believe in his skill set, but also when you get to the very top of that division, that wrestling, it works very well sometimes, as we saw with Francis, and as we saw with Stipe beating Francis as well back in the day. But I don't know, I think you need more than that. Blades is a very, very good wrestler. He's been knocked out a good few times now, so it'd be very interesting to see if he can translate his wrestling towards the top of the division. It'll be interesting, as we say, for his next 2 or 3 fights to see where he goes. Wrestling was certainly the winner in the next 3 fights in a row. Jotko defeated Mershart. Just all around a way better fighter.
Yeah.
I knew Jotko was a better fighter. One thing that kind of shocked me was people expecting for Mershart to beat Jotko on the ground. And they were saying in the commentary, and I saw a few other people talking that way as well. Just Jotko to me is a far superior grappler, and he showed that here, really, didn't he?
Yeah, I think going into it, I kind of had it as Jotko being a little bit better everywhere and a lot better in some places, and it kind of turned out that way. It looked earlier like he might get the finish, but Mershart is a tough guy and brings it, but yeah, he's just not really. He's not really that talented anywhere. I think he might be a little bit overrated. Jotko's maybe not the best guy in the division, but he's a well-rounded guy who's no kind of gaping holes in his game, and 24 wins and only 5 losses. Yeah, I think I don't know why the commentators were expecting anything except what happened. It
was a bit weird, but I don't know. Mershart is a good guy, but he's very much middle of the road. Whereas Jotko, he's always been on the peripheries of that middleweight division in terms of the rankings, and I think he deserves to be. I think he's a good fighter. Now, will he get any higher than that? I don't think so either. But I don't think Mershart is that level. And
if you look at Mershart's wins, they're just not that great. And he has some losses against some good guys, but yeah, I think maybe he's lucky to still be in the UFC. To be honest.
At times it's true. Then we had Darren Elkins out wrestling Tristan Connolly, showing his skill set. Sometimes Darren Elkins does do this. He comes out there and against guys who maybe aren't the best guys in the world, he beats them like this. Now, I picked Tristan Connolly coming in there, and I was sorely wrong, but happy to be wrong as well, considering Mr. Elkins is part of Team Sheehan. And he put on a clinic here. Wrestling looked good. Tristan Connolly looked like he was going to make a bit of a comeback at one stage, but Elkins got his wrestling going again and just beat him down. Really, it was a very good win. Darren Elkins is one of those guys. Is he underrated, or are we rating him enough just because of the madness of his ability to take damage as well? But sometimes he can do this, can't he?
Yeah, he can. Like, in this fight again, it looked in the second round like he was getting tired. But if it was anybody else, you'd probably be like, "Oh, this is bad news." But with Elkins, we've seen it so many times. We've seen him grit his teeth and kind of just power forward and get the job done. And I think that's what he did here. Connolly put up a decent fight. Didn't really capitalize on a few moments that maybe he could have, but Elkins is so tough. We've seen it so many times, and the question of whether he's overrated, maybe he was overrated at one stage in his career, but I think he's developed as a fighter over the last few years, maybe 5 or 6 years, and has become a bit a very good contender, very good kind of proving fight for a top contender. If you can beat Elkins, you're really good. So he's probably, in terms of hardcores, maybe he's a bit more respected than if you were watching him as a outsider, kind of casual. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. As a casual, you might think, oh, he's a bit sloppy or things like this, or he was lucky in that fight. But when kind of that's his game and that's what he's doing, he's kind of looking to get down and dirty, then it kind of it makes more sense. So yeah, I think he's a great guy to have around. Obviously, he's been in some ridiculous fights over the years, and he's his game as anybody, and he's always exciting to watch. And I still look forward to watching him fight.
Me too. I love that nickname as well, Down and Dirty Darren Elkins. What about that?
Yeah, but he got the damage on his front. You can get down and dirty on his back.
Imagine Joe Martinez saying down and dirty Darren Elkins. It'd be brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Down and Dirty Darren Elkins. That's a fucking great nickname. Jesus Christ, that's fantastic.
The damage is already quite good though for what he is.
The tattoo as well makes it.
He's pretty committed to it now with the tattoo over.
Alright, you could get that remade into down and dirty. Just go from the D down, it'll be fine. Grant Dawson, then he's moved camp as well, which I was surprised to hear. He seemed like he was so close to James Krause even. He's moved to ATT now, which might be a good move for him. He looked good here. Still and all though, it was one of those fights when you're a guy and you're 18-1 in your career, and you're fighting Jared Gordon, who's a very good fighter and a tough game fighter. It's one of those ones that I think if you are that top prospect, fighting against someone like Gordon might make you look good, especially when you're 19 fights into your career. Maybe if it was 8-1 or something like that, I would be saying something different. But still and all, look, it wasn't a blow-away performance. He did dominate him, and he did end up getting the finish, and I think the finish made it look an awful lot better. You could see by Dawson himself, he was a little bit disappointed with his performance at the end of it, and that's a winner right there, to be fair. So I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes after that. He has all the tools. Like, he's a very good wrestler. He can get finishes. I think his striking is improving as well. As we've seen in the past, he's tough as hell. Looks like his cardio is getting a bit better as well, and that's a big part of it. It was very interesting as well. Bisping was talking about how cardio is a massive thing, especially when all else is even. And it's funny, myself and Harry did a speaker's corner on that not too long ago. Not necessarily on cardio, but on like toughness. And I think cardio is part of that as well. You look even tougher if you can keep going in the third round. But I think that's going to be a big factor in fights going forward in the next few years, because MMA ability, shall we say, is getting closer and closer and closer and better and better and better in lots of different ways. Now, there'll always be outliers, but when that is even, the toughest guy will win that fight. The guy with the better cardio will win that fight. The guy who's going longer towards the end is going to win that fight. And guys like Elkins, who are coming up and they have the same ability maybe as a guy like, say, we're looking at Feely higher up this card or someone like that. The guys who are tougher will win those fights as we go forward, and it might be a little bit of a comeback to the hard-nosed lads of years gone past. Like, this is another one of my proclamations. Like, jiu-jitsu doesn't work in MMA, and then conversely, jiu-jitsu coming back into MMA. I think tough lads, animals, are going to make a comeback in MMA, and we will see animals as UFC
well, as
champions.
the kind of everybody gets more well-rounded, everybody kind of learns how to defend like what happened to jiu-jitsu basically over the years. Everybody learned how to defend the basic kind of maneuvers, and it became really difficult to get them. you know, I think toughness, you might be right, toughness might come into it as everybody kind of gets more well-rounded and the fights get closer. But also, you know, it's hard to tell, you know, somebody like Grant Dawson against Jared Gordon, a fight for him that, you know, as you said, it wasn't the best, maybe looks better on paper than it was, but for him as a 28-year-old, 18-1, it's a very good learning fight for him as well. So yeah, I think you know, it's not really the best performance, but it's good to get back in the win column after that kind of majority draw decision, and he still has a lot of promise, but yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Janderson Brito then knocked out Andre Touchy-Feely in 41 seconds through a big right hand, landed a few shots around him on. I thought Herb Dean did a great job here, fair play to him, with the stoppage. He gave Feely a chance. He almost kind of gave him a second chance, but then Brito landed one hammer fist on the ground. It looked like Feely was kind of not necessarily his eyes rolling back, but he wasn't intelligently defending himself, and he came in and he stopped. And, you know, a big win for Brito, but Feely, you know, he hasn't fought that much in recent times. And another kind of big loss for him here, maybe against a name that you wouldn't expect him to lose against, although Brito is a good fighter. But yeah, it's a tough one. A tough one for Feely, and we'll see what he does the next time, because you know, another loss and it might be out of the UFC for Feely, unfortunately, after he was looking a good prospect there for a while. And they were even talking about his last fight where he was winning, and it went to, was it a no contest? So, you know, interesting times. We'll see where that goes. The most controversial fight of the night probably was Androwski versus Jake Collier in terms of judging, and a lot of people were giving out about it. Look, I thought the second and third rounds were extremely close. I think all three judges and most people gave the first round to Jake Collier. There was lots of head clashes throughout this fight, over and over, and it kept kind of stopping and it kept looking a bit weird. Arlovski came back into it though in the second and the third. I thought both were like really close. I gave him both. I
thought the second was really close, but I thought the third was Collier, to be honest. Arlovski, yeah, I could see it for Arlovski in the second round, but in the third round I think it's a bit of a stretch, to be honest.
I don't know, I thought it was very close. Like, I thought Arlovski was landing kind of the better shots throughout, and then Collier kind of came back and he landed. I didn't think there was much in it, to be honest, throughout those second and third. As I said, I gave all three rounds to Collier, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's a robbery or anything like that. Do you think it's a robbery?
I think it's close enough that it's not a robbery. I think I would have given the fight to Collier, but I don't think it's anything outrageous. But yeah, I think the wrong decision. It was the wrong decision in the end. I thought it should have been 29-28 for Collier. Yeah, I had a 30-27. Yeah, well, it was one of those ones at the end of it. I knew there'd be like massive backlash and everything from people that, you know, don't really understand the close rounds. Like, even, okay, the second round, absolutely, you know, definitely close. We all agree with that. That third, I don't know, the third round in the heavyweight division as well, especially when Collier is like looking kind of more tired, and Arlovski is throwing those straight rights down the middle. A lot of the Collier shots as well. And it's a very interesting thing when we're talking about effective striking, because the more tired he looks when he's throwing his strikes, it almost looks like the effect on them is less that Arlovski is absorbing, because the way Collier is kind of throwing him, and he's kind of whiffing on these shots, landing maybe on Arlovski, and a shot that might score heavier in the first round doesn't score as heavy in the third, because the judges are looking at it and they're looking how tired Collier is, and maybe it not having an effect on Arlovski. You know, even if it didn't have an effect in the first, it doesn't have an effect in the third either, but the way it's being thrown maybe looks a little bit effective as well, and I think that helps someone like Arlovski. Like, you know, we know about Collier fighting down at 185 and putting on fucking Sean Sheehan amount of weight to get back up to 265, and he's cutting down as well to make that. I don't think that helps him in the third rounds of fights, and I think that might have been something that kind of played against him here. Like, we were talking about effect, especially in these close start rounds, and the effectiveness of those strikes when you look that tired won't score as high than if you kind of don't look tired, which is maybe an odd thing and maybe very much inside sort of judging, but you know, I think that might have played a part in it. But as I said, I still gave it to Collier, and I do think the wrong guy won. I think Collier won, but by no means
I wouldn't say a robbery, but you know me, I'm Shawnee judges anyway, so I wouldn't say anything bad against them, but I would.
Head of the judges union.
Head of the judges union. They need to start paying me a salary, like, at this stage, for fuck's sake. Speaking of fucking judging, Marlon Vera and Rob Font might have been the best fight of all time to talk about damage in fights, because we had...
no, Sean, did you not hear about the significant strikes?
Oh, sorry, tell me the stats, Graham.
It was a record for the differential in significant strikes.
Was it? That's
quote significant.
Yeah, that's mad. I actually have the numbers here. Give me 1 second. I'll just pull them up. So... total significant strikes in this fight, right? Rob Font, 273. Marlon Vera, 167. So there was 106 strikes more landed by the guy who lost clearly on everyone's card. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny the way that was? And the significant strikes, Graham, you wanted significant strikes? 199 for Rob Font, 95 for Chito Vera. So 104 significant strikes more landed by the guy who clearly lost. Isn't that something? Now, how does that work? How does that? Do you want them round for round by round? Okay, for round one, Vera. We'll forget about round one. Round two.
Well, Font won.
Round one. Fair enough. Round two. Vera won. 27. Vera. 51 for Font. Round three. 37 for Vera. 71 for Font, the guy who lost. 36 for Vera in round four. Guy who lost. 36. 42 for the guy who. The guy who lost. 36 for the guy who won. And then 33 for the guy who lost for the guy who won. Versus 50. 50 versus 33. So all 4 rounds he was badly
nearly finished.
outdone. But won on, so 4 rounds, 3 judges, that's 12 rounds. On 11 of those judges' cards, the guy who was significantly outlanded won. Please. I no need to speak to go full Jose Mourinho here. This is a fact. You can't deny it anymore. The damage won the rounds. And I was actually the second round, and when I saw the card, it was on, I wonder which round it was, and I knew it would be the second round, because that knockdown late in the second round, it looked a bit weird, and I think from a judging point of view, if you're looking at it, if you're maybe at a wrong angle, it's a harder one to see, but the rest of them, it was...
I don't know, that first one, he kind of, his legs dragging and his head went down as if he was going to fall forward for a second.
He kind of went for the legs a bit.
He kind of caught himself, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely an odd one. I think it was a knockdown. I think it was a very hard shot, and absolutely, I think Marlon Vera won the round, and because of it. But it was one of those ones that if you're at the wrong side of the cage, if you don't just catch it right, if you don't see it, it's one could be a slip, it could be, he goes for a takedown attempt in very quickly, he played it off a little bit. Now 2 of the 3 judges got it right and gave that round to him, but you couldn't criticize the judge for barely missing that at all, and they got all the rest of them right. 11 out of 12 for the guy who landed the more damage. Please believe me. You don't have to believe me anymore. You can see it. The fucking judges did it. This is an example I'm going to have to write down and keep forever, because this is the perfect example of how judging is done, and it was brilliant. But anyway, we forget about the judging. Let's talk about Chito Vera, because I picked Font coming in here, you picked Font, all the lads in the previous show picked Font, and what a fucking performance. Look, Font won most of the fight, if you want to put it that way, and landed most of the strikes.
Minutes, yeah.
But still, I thought Vera was even doing well when he was being outlanded. I thought he was being more varied than he had been before. It wasn't kind of just headless pressure. He was throwing the left hand, he was landing some nice shots, and he was biding his time to land that big shot, and he ended up doing it. Now, I'd even be saying that if he had lost and he hadn't landed those big shots from even the first round where he lost it. I thought he looked much improved, and I thought he was a better fighter than I had given him credit for before. And even maybe beating Frankie Edgar in that last fight, it's not Frankie anymore, but it might have given him that bit of confidence to believe that he can beat guys at that level. And by God, did he show it in this one. He showed confidence in his power as well, and it went well. Terrific performance from Vera. He kind of made us all look super great, didn't he?
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant performance by him. He stayed patient as well. He can get wild sometimes. There was I think it was one knockdown. Was it the third round where he, I can't remember which round it was, where he kind of let Font recover on his back for basically like a minute and a half, nearly a long time.
The third, I think.
That was bad. In my opinion, he should have let him stand up straight away, or he should have went in and tried to finish it. That could have ended up costing him. Like if Font had made a comeback, or if things had gone differently. But besides that, I think it was nearly a flawless performance from him. Absolutely brilliant. As you said, I expected kind of everybody who I was talking to expected Font to kind of go out there and just kind of outland them and maybe stay quite safe, and he just wasn't able to do that. Vera was able to find his shots, and it was as you mentioned, he's beaten Frankie Edgar before, but it isn't the Frankie Edgar that maybe everybody remembers. But I think this is the biggest win of Vera's career. Brilliant. Like, if he can fight at this performance level in going forward, then he's a problem for anybody in the division. But with Vera, I think maybe he might be one of those guys that maybe is a little bit inconsistent, but maybe, as you said, maybe that Frankie Edgar fight and this fight will give him the confidence to show, here I am a top guy and I can compete with everybody, and that's a huge thing. Like, I think we talk about the mental game a little bit, but the mental game in MMA is massively underrated, and confidence is huge.
Yeah, absolutely, and it just felt like that, it felt
even
like,
in the fight, you could see him growing in confidence.
I was just about to say that. I felt like you could see him believing more as the fight went on, and it wasn't as if it all went his own way or anything like that. Like, Font won that first round, and I thought won it pretty well and looked good. He was dominating, really, landing jabs, and his boxing looked very good, landing those uppercuts over and over. And they were saying in the commentary, if he lands one of them in the right place, it could be curtains. And the second round started that way as well. Now, Cheetah did do better in the second round. He was landing leg kicks as well early, which were very, very good. But yeah, he did better in that second round. But then that big knockdown with the left hook for Cheetah won that second round for me. The third round, Font got a takedown early. It was smart. Got his wits about him a little bit more as well. Landing. Cheetah was landing a lot more, but Font was landing too, and in the knee nearly finished Font towards the end of the third round, survived again, so the damage winning that one again in the fourth round. Font was winning well and doing a great job, but then Vera landed that old sweet chin music, a beautiful hook kind of kick to the face. That was the one where maybe he didn't capitalize on it as much in the fourth round, but still I think that was enough to win it. The fifth round was an interesting one because there was that late shot again that won him the round, the same 4 rounds in a row. I actually thought Vera was winning this round up until then. I thought he was landing the more significant strikes and kind of running the fight. But I thought, look, it was very close. If Font had landed 1 or 2, I could have given it to him. But Vera, look, obviously won the round with that late strike again. So, you hear it all the time in MMA, and the Collier one, Dominic Cruz went with the leg takedown, wins the round, on the end of the third. Yeah. Now, maybe he won the round, I gave him the round, but he did fucking late takedown.
Because of that, yeah.
Certainly didn't win him the round. A late knockdown can win you a round, especially, if it's very close, it can win you a round, but even when it's not close, it can win you a round as well, because that, it's the immediate impact over the cumulative, and when it's a massive knockdown the way that Cheetah Vera knocked him down, those score, and it's not me saying it, this happened last night. So brilliant judging, brilliant fights. Both guys fought well, honestly. Font fought very well as well. It was just he was unlucky. I was just going to say he was unlucky he came up with a guy with such durability. I don't think I've ever seen someone as durable as Cheetah Vera. He had the mark on him. Like he wasn't touched. He was in the 5th round, and he was, how many? 199 significant strikes, and some of them were fucking significant strikes. He clattered him there with a few strikes.
Yeah. And sometimes the flush ones are the ones that's kind of glance off you, the ones that cut you up, and the ones that land flush kind of, they rattle your brain, but they don't show on the face.
Yeah, either way, what durability, insane, unbelievable cardio as well. And to be fair, it was always going to be one of those fights where could Font get him out of there? Could he keep it up for 5 rounds? And you know what? He did keep it up for at least 4 rounds anyway, but he still lost. So when I say both guys fought well, I genuinely mean that. Like, Font
did well to survive 3 times.
4 times nearly.
But one of them, I think, was at the end of the round. I think he was but
every time he came back as well and was winning the next round. Like, so it was a brilliant performance from Font, honestly. But Vera was just he was different. Like, Font is probably a level above Vera in lots of different ways, but that insane durability and that power and game planning as well was fantastic. And it was a brilliant win and a brilliant fight. I think one of the fights of the year. Like, sometimes we look, and people last night they were talking, the 100 fight nights, and they were talking about Gaetje versus Holloway, and that was one of those ones that was like 50-43 or one of them. That was a beating from one side, a great beating, one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. But this was a great performance from both guys in a close fight the whole way through. Now, I scored it 4-1, but it's a close fight, and it was a great fight. This is the sort of fight that I like, that's, nip and tuck, not just a one-way beatdown. And I think this should be a contender at the end of the year for fight of the year. Probably won't win it. We've had some great fights, but I think it should be up there. I really, really enjoyed it. Right, let's move on. We'll quickly have a look back at the PFL from this week as well. There's some good wins for Sherman and Moraes. The women's is starting next week, the 155-pound tournament. The 145-pound men started this week. Alejandro Flores got a win in that division, as did Bubba Jenkins. Clinton Abreu won in the heavyweight division. That Bubba Jenkins fight, he won the first 2 rounds against Kyle Bochniak, then got his eye closed in the third, so it'll be interesting to see if that's healed up by the time the next round comes around in a few weeks' time. Ante Deja does what he does again, does a bit of wrestling, does a bit of striking, knocked out Matthias Scheffel, who went down very oddly in one of his knockdowns. He looks like a guy who's kind of never sparred in his life before. It was very odd, but a good win for Deja there. Denis Gostilov as well, who's a 2-time semi-finalist in PFL, got another win against Cody Goodell. Hinan Fahey, this is the guy people need to be looking out for on the way up. He beat Verdum last year. Now he beat Jamal Jones with he threw a front kick, and then he threw a second front kick, and Jones wasn't expecting it to come, and he knocked him out with a shin to the face. A brilliant knockout from Hinan Fahey. I'll get to Brendan Loughnane in a second week. Chris Wade dominated Lance Palmer. Looks like Lance Palmer maybe coming towards the end of his powers after being a 2-time $1 million check winner there. And Bruno Capoloza, my guy, one of Team Sheehan. He got the win over Stuart Austin. Stuart Austin, who has a win over Tom Aspinall, interestingly enough. But Capoloza just tied with him here, ended up ground and pounding him out. But the Brendan Loughnane fight, Graham, very interesting fight. I like Kudo coming in. He's a good fighter, and he showed that he knocked Loughnane down hard early in that first round. Loughnane did a great job of holding on, surviving. It looked like, I thought he was finished there, honestly, but he kept going. Won the second round for me, a very close round. I thought Kudo started it well. Go on, what did you think?
It was a close round up until the last few seconds of the round when Loughnane kind of took over and made sure the round in the nick of time. It was a really close round up until the last kind of few seconds. Yeah, indeed. I
would tend to agree with that. Yeah, he landed that knockdown. It was like a left hook of memory. I've watched so many fights, and it was one of those ones that I wasn't sure if it was a knockdown or wasn't a knockdown. And Kudo,
he was definitely stunned anyway.
Yeah, I thought he was stunned. Yeah, definitely on replay. It looked like a good job by the judges there. But then there was an awful clash of heads in the third round, 3 minutes in, and before that, Loughnane had been getting takedown after takedown after takedown, not landed massive shots or anything like that, but judging the round at that point, there was no way you could give it to Kudo. You had to give that third round to Loughnane. So went to a technical decision due to a horrendous cut on Kudo's head. No one's fault. Absolutely a clash of heads. It wasn't a headbutt or anything like that. Kudo won the first round due to the big knockdown. Very close second round, which, as we both kind of said there, we thought Loughnane won later. I'll throw it to you, Graham, see if he did. And in the third round, Loughnane had to win it. This one is one of those ones that feels a bit weird because you're scoring only 3 minutes of the third round, but that's the way the rules are, and that's the way it is. And maybe it needs to be adjusted, but under the rules, I think Loughnane was the worthy winner here, 29-28, even though Kudo won most of the fight. But great job by Loughnane to come back. Grabaki Hitman suggested a rematch later on in the year. I like that. I think that'd be a good idea. Loughnane injured as well. I think his manager Malky Kawa put it up. He was carrying a serious injury. He was wearing 2 knee braces, and he kind of looked like it. But
I was going to mention that. Yeah, he had 2 knee braces on, which is rare to see. Sometimes you're trying to disguise which knee is injured, or maybe both knees are injured. So that's never a good thing, But it looked like things were going very badly for him. As you mentioned, it looked at one stage like he was about to be finished. He did just enough to survive. He showed his toughness again. Kudos to him. he put on a really good showing. He's fighting a very experienced guy who's fought a lot of tough guys over a lot of years in Brendan Loughnane, and he looked really good, and he'll be very disappointed with how the fight ended. Obviously, as you said, it wasn't a headbutt, it was a clash of heads. It was kind of both of their faults, or neither of the guys' fault, both of their fault in my opinion. It does seem a bit strange when you're scoring a 3-minute round, but as you said, that's the rules. And maybe Kudo, if he had known it was go to a decision, maybe it would have been better to try and say your grand and continue on. But it was a sizable cut, but I don't know if it was going to go into the eyes. But it's an unfortunate situation. Brendan didn't look too pleased after even getting the win and progressing, but yeah, these things happen sometimes in MMA.
Indeed, 100%. There's another PFL next week, and all their big stars are back. The card is headlined by Kayla Harrison against Marina Makachina, who is a good sambo stylist and is good and strong in the clinch. But you'd have to be unbelievable in the clinch, I think, to beat Kayla Harrison. Ray Cooper, the third, is back, the 2-time champion. He's fighting Magomed Umalatov. Rory McDonald is fighting Brett Cooper. Magomed Kerimov is fighting Joe Zeffirino, which is a very interesting fight to me. Zeffirino is a dinger on the ground, as is Magomed Kerimov, so that'll be interesting. Gina Fabian is fighting Julia Budd in her debut in the tournament here for PFL, and Julia Budd versus Kayla Harrison is a fight I think everyone will want to see this year, so hopefully that happens. Sadibou C is rematching Nikolai Alsakin. That fight in a no contest last season, I believe, and a very close fight, so that one's going down again. Gleison Tibau is back. He's fighting Al Shlawi, who fought in Cage Warriors back in the day. He's been around for a long time. Abigail Montes, who beat Clarissa Shields last time out, she's fighting Olena Kolesnik, and there's a couple of other fights as well, but the biggest one for Irish fans especially, and another one of the PFL stars, Showtime Anthony Pettis is taking on the Magic Man Miles Price. Graham, a big fight for Miles Price, isn't it? Looking at his record, it's actually crazy. I was doing the PFL preview, and it'll be out this week on Sherdog. Miles Price, right? He's fought Peter Queally in 2019, so that's over 3 years ago at this stage. Then he fought Norman Park in 2018, and he fought Phil Rayburn only a month before that. But then before that, it was 2016. He fought Mario Syed. 2015, he fought Kay Musa. In 2013, he had a good few fights. So in the last 8 years, he's only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights in 9 years. 5 fights in 9 years for Miles Price. That's a bit crazy. To be fair, he was due to fight loads of guys as well, and fights have fallen out and everything like that. But it's good to see Miles back, and if he can produce like he did against Peter Queally in his last time, he's a chance here against Pettis. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Miles is kind of a guy who's been around for a long time, and maybe I can't remember some of his early fights, looking at them now on his record, but I think he's a guy who kind of fights close to the level of the guy he's fighting. So Anthony Pettis is definitely, we've talked about it before, there's definitely a blueprint there to beat him, and I'm sure Miles Price won't be messing around. This is a huge opportunity for Miles Price. You mentioned Norman Park and Peter Queally. They're big fights. It's a huge win over Peter Queally. But Anthony Pettis, former UFC champion, everybody knows him. The Showtime kick, all that stuff. This is, for Anthony Pettis, this is just another fight. But for Miles Price, this is huge. And I think he was over in Habib's camp before, working on wrestling and stuff like that. And if he can go in and take Pettis down and frustrate him, and see how much Pettis actually wants this, would I be that surprised if that happened and Miles Price wins? I wouldn't, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Pettis lands something big and finishes him. So yeah, I think Pettis is definitely the favourite here, but if Miles Price comes in with a good game plan and can execute it and can frustrate Pettis and put him on his back, then we've seen it before many times.
Indeed, and you have to watch out for Pettis' submissions as well, as if he does take it down, because we know how good.
Absolutely, we can talk about the striking, but I think I don't know if it's still now, but recently enough it was that he had more submission finishes than he did.
Still does, I think. I don't think he's got a win since then. To be honest, he keeps losing. But, it'll be an interesting one. Look, it'll be interesting to see where Miles is. You can't take 3 years out of the cage and for it not to matter. He's been over.
At least he was in camps, though. He was meant to fight Alfie Davis. So I know that was a couple of years ago now as well. But yeah, it's not ideal coming in against Anthony Pettis, having not fought since.
Bit of a warm up fight or something.
3 years, over 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But
if he can produce the same performance he did against Peter Queally with that amount of wrestling, he absolutely has a chance. Look, Pettis will be a big favourite, I'm sure, coming in here, and rightly so against a guy who hasn't fought in that amount of time, and who, okay, he has a win over a Bellator lightweight contender, I suppose, in Peter Queally, who beat Patricky and things. That win just kind of looks better and better all the time, but it's a massive opportunity for him here. Would it be, apart from McGregor, would it be the biggest win ever for an Irish MMA fighter if Miles Price beats Anthony Pettis? Have to be up there, I would say.
Yeah, it's up there. Like, you'd have to put Peter Queally and beating Pitbull up there as well. Yeah, it would be huge. Anthony Pettis, he may not be at the height of his powers, but he's still a very dangerous guy, and he's still well respected. He's still well known, and yeah, this would like, Miles Price kind of a flying under the radar. He's been around for a long time, but he, as you said, he's been kind of in and out. He's been taking big kind of gaps, and he wasn't around kind of at the explosion of Irish MMA a few years ago. So he's definitely flying under the radar. But if he goes out here and puts on a really good performance, and if he can get the win here, he's definitely really announced himself, and it will be an absolutely massive win, and it would definitely be up there with the biggest wins in Irish MMA outside of Conor, obviously. 100%.
Right, let's look ahead to the cards next week after the PFL. Bellator return to France. The heavyweight title is on the line. Jake Collier versus Ryan Bader. They fought once before and it ended via no contest, with Bader dominating that one. You'd probably fancy Bader again here. I would say, he looked
kick, no contest, could be a runner as well, like some kind of
you'd never know.
Nut shot from Jake Collier.
Probably, yeah, indeed. Yoel Romero is now fighting Alex Polizzi. Melvin Manhoef, I believe, with a cut. Unconfirmed, but he's out of that fight, so it'll be interesting to see Yoel back. Yves Landu, who had that massive flying knee knockout of Terry Brazier, he's fighting Gavin Hughes. I'd fancy him in that one as well. Sutton back against Charlie Leary. I love that fight. I think it's a very, very good fight. Lawrence Larkin is on the card against Kyle Stewart. Mike Shipman against Gregory Babin. Lou Long against Thibaut Gaetje. The Nicolas Sololi fight is off, I believe. I don't know if that's breaking news or not. Pedro Carvalho as well is on this card, and it's a very good fight, Graham, against Peter and Yates. I watched a bit of him. They're very similar fighters.
It's a very good fight, a very tough fight, but for Carvalho, it's kind of a thankless fight. He's just after beating Daniel Weichel, best performance of his career, biggest win of his career, and instead of getting a kind of big name, he's got a really tough guy who isn't a big name. So yeah, this is a tough fight, but yeah, he's not afraid of a tough fight, is Pedro. Yeah,
buried on the undercard here out in France. It's a bit of a bizarre one. After it was like almost a star-making performance the last time, and the way he spoke to the media afterwards, and he got the acclaim of the crowd and everything. It's a bit bizarre to see him here, but this is going to be fight at night. I've done my preview later on in the week for Sherdog, and I watched some in Niediecki. This guy is, as I said, very similar to Carvalho. He comes forward, throws big shots. This is going to be a fucking war. Look, it'll either be someone getting knocked out quick, or it'll be 3 rounds of the two lads battering the fucking heads off each other. Now, Peter can...
So each guy will be hitting a knee at some stage.
Yeah, definitely, probably. That's a fantastic fight. It should be higher up for me. But anyway, did you fancy Bader to be Congo?
Yeah, I think so. Congo, he's just not that great. I don't think he was ever that great, and the division is or the game has kind of evolved, and he hasn't evolved with it. Bader is obviously on the tail end of his career. He's definitely not at the height of his powers, but I think at heavyweight he looks better than he does at 205, and I expect him to either knock out or dominate this knock out Jake Collier or dominate this fight from pretty much bell to bell. But yeah, another outcome will be some kind of no contest involving Jake Collier eye poking or kneeing in the balls or grabbing shorts or something along those lines.
Bader hasn't looked amazing recently. Like, he looked better at heavyweight, but at light heavyweight he's looked like badly outmatched a few times recently, and I don't know, maybe if Congo can kind of put a little bit of a pace on him here early, It could work out well for him, but then if he doesn't, he's probably going to get taken down over and over and beaten. But Congo has a few takedowns, but yeah, I would definitely favour Bader. But if I was in Congo's corner, I'd be telling him, come out strong and fast and throw big shots at Bader. And try to land.
And Congo's been, besides that split decision loss to Tim Johnson, he's been on a hell of a streak since losing to King Mo. But yeah, I think Bader should have enough here. It's just the style matchup. Bader's wrestling is better than Congo's. I doubt Congo's going to be able to hold him up against the fence for long periods like he likes to do. Yeah, I think he's a little bit trigger shy these days, Congo is, and if Bader comes out looking kind of finished, like, he's 38 years old, he's been in a lot of big fights, he's taking a lot of damage. It could be Congo, but I'd be surprised, to be honest. It would be more, if Congo's to win here, I think it's more an indictment on where Bader is.
I would tend to agree, but not that. I usually say, looking forward to it. Not really looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to some of the undercard fights, but not necessarily the main event. What I am looking forward to though is UFC 274. A brilliant card. I just looking here, I never even noticed Andre Filo is taking a short notice fight. He's back after his win a couple of weeks ago. He's fighting Cameron Van Camp. Lupi Godinez is back again. She's fighting Ariana Canelose. Francisco Trinaldo, who I accidentally mentioned earlier, he's fighting Danny Roberts on this card. Bagay Ivanov is back against De Lima. Your boy Brandon Rival, Graham, who's he fighting? Do you see who Brandon Rival is fighting? Do you see it? Have you?
Sorry, I was muted there.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, Matt Snell. Can't you smell the Matt Snell?
Oh, what a fight. I can't wait for Matt Snell just so I can hear that song. And
hopefully one day he'll walk out to Leonard Skinner who that smell.
You need to, he actually follows me. I'll DM him. I go, here Matt, I'll go to this. Yeah. We have a women's featherweight fight on the card, Graham. Macy Chiasson versus Norma Dumont. I thought Norma Dumont retired. Maybe I'm gone mad, but if she wins that, she'd probably be fighting for a title, maybe. Chaos Williams, Randy Brown. Donald Cerrone against Joe Lozon. That would have been a fight everyone would have been gassed about a few years ago, but both of them, maybe a retirement fight for both of them here, but I'm looking forward to that. I think Cerrone should probably win, but he's back down to 155. He doesn't like getting back down to 155.
I think Cerrone, surely. I know he's not the fighter he once was. He's been in a lot of fights all over, taking a lot of damage and been very he's been very up and down, but I think, compared to Joe Lozon, I think Joe Lozon's fallen off a cliff more. I think Cerrone should be able to strike him up here early and probably put him away. But with Don Cerrone, you just never know. You just never know which Cerrone's gonna turn up. But this fight isn't the biggest pressure fight, but it should be okay. But things go on in people's heads, and Cerrone's made no secret of kind of he doesn't know what kind of state he's going to be in until he arrives at the arena. So yeah, I think it's Cerrone's fight to lose.
Lozon is a bit of a quick starter too from memory. I haven't seen him fight in a while now, but I think that could be a bit of an issue for Cerrone. I wouldn't be surprised if Lozon did win it, but I agree with you. I would favour Cerrone in this one. OSP is fighting Shogun, in a fight that could matter in that division, to be honest, because it isn't the strongest in the world on 205. And then we have the three big fights: Chandler versus Ferguson, Namajunas versus Esparza for the 115-pound title, and then Charles Oliveira against Justin Gaethje for the 155-pound title. First up, Graham, the Chandler versus Ferguson fight, you can't look at Tony Ferguson and think that he is the fighter he once was, even though I know you've said he's been badly overrated for a long time, but it's 2019 since he last won a fight. That was against Donald Cerrone, who we just spoke about. Michael Chandler, he hasn't had the best of it since he came into the UFC, losing 2 out of 3. But yeah, as we said, the Gaethje fight, he almost knocked out Chandler in the first round of that fight. He beat Dan Hooker, but the Gaethje fight, he just kind of came out striking with him. But you'd have to favour Chandler here, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a very difficult fight for Tony Ferguson. I've talked about it at nausea over the years about how overrated Tony Ferguson is, and he's getting on now. He's been in a lot of wars. He's had injuries that he hasn't treated properly by the sounds of things. He's kind of done it his way, which is sometimes a bit of a mad way, and he's very vulnerable on the feet defensively. I think his striking defense has never been good. Like, he can dish it out, but his offensive boxing isn't too bad and striking isn't too bad, but I think he's very open. I think Chandler will land one of his big shots early and knock him down. Tony Ferguson's, shown that he can survive, but I think Chandler might be too much for him. Chandler probably knock him out in the first round or second round, I think.
Yeah, I think Chandler will land too many big shots in him here. It'll be interesting to see if Ferguson has adjusted anything or is better in any way, but yeah, I think...
See, if it goes to the ground here, I don't really think Ferguson's going to be able to do much either, so I just think this style matchup is just really bad for him.
It is, yeah. I'm actually surprised they didn't keep this matchup for McGregor, honestly. That McGregor versus Ferguson fight made so much sense, a great way to get McGregor back against the name. I think if he beats Chandler here, that's a tougher matchup to make then, but anyway, or Chandler beats him here even. Look, it's an interesting fight. I think both guys will come out hitting hard early, and I do think Chandler will win, but you never know with Ferguson as well. He still has that ability to take damage, and Chandler's a big muscular guy. If he goes all out for 3 rounds, we could see him getting tired, and Ferguson still will be there, and you quickly become a white belt if you're very tired. So maybe Ferguson could get a 3rd round submission or something like that.
It's true. Maybe he hurts him early and can't finish him and kind of gasses himself out a little bit. And Tony Ferguson's cardio, that could happen. And if I think it's very unlikely, but if that was to happen and Tony Ferguson was to win, then that Conor fight would be perfect.
Oh, it'd be brilliant. It'd be brilliant. I mean, manna from heaven for McGregor. I think it'd be. I think that fight makes so much sense, and I hope it happens. But anyway, the 2 title fights in Namajunas versus Esparza. Look, obviously Esparza has the win over Rose back in the day, and she's won a good few fights in a row now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights in a row, beating Yan Xiaonan, which was a great win last summer, and Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, Jean Diroba. Obviously beating Namajunas back in, when was it, 2014? God almighty, that's a long time ago now. Doesn't seem that long. I remember watching that.
I thought you were going to say like 2017 or something.
Yeah, I was like, 2019. But look, I don't think she has much of a hope here, honestly. But she is a very good wrestler. If she does take her down and
she's hard to look good against, Yeah, she's hard to look good against. She makes it kind of nasty and awkward. But yeah, I think Rose is a much more evolved fighter of the two of them since they first fought. She has a lot more tools to finish fights than Carla. Like Carla probably looking to take this long and kind of maybe not the most exciting fight, but I think Rose should have enough here to get it done. Her striking is on a different level to Carla's, but if Carla can get her down and get on top, she's very good from there. So there's definitely a method of victory here for Carla, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a 5-round non-stop game plan for Carla Esparza to win this, and I think she has the ability to do
before,
that. Yeah. She has the ability to do that. Do I think she will do it? No. I think Namajunas will be good enough to stop the takedowns. Like, what I can see here, if she does take her down, I can see Namajunas getting on like a Kimura, sweeping and getting back up, rather than maybe...
Or taking the back in a scramble or something like that.
She's very good jiu-jitsu. It's one thing, like, people forget about Rose Namajunas. She started out as a submission artist, as a jiu-jitsu artist, and then she turned into this fantastic striker under Trevor Whitman. And I've always thought, like, Rose would be even better if she could meld those two a little bit more. And I still don't think she has done that. She's only 15 fights into her career. Let's remember that too. So she's still learning. She's still going. She's still pretty young in her career. And I expect Rose Namajunas to get better and better and better. Obviously, mentality she's spoken about many times is an issue for her. But I actually think it's a strong point for her as well when she, when she gets everything right. And if she can get everything right here against Esparza, I think it's also a fight that she can look good in ways. Now, as you said, it's hard to look good against Esparza, but if you can stop that takedown, keep her on the field, I think it's a fight you quickly do look good in. But an interesting fight, an interesting styles matchup. Interesting in terms of the fact that Rose Namajunas a lifetime ago lost to Carla Esparza, but she did lose to her. It did happen, and if she can get revenge here, it will be a big one. And in the main event, Charles Oliveira against Justin Gaethje. Look, it's one of those fights where you look at Charles Oliveira and he's unbelievable on the ground, lands big, hard power shots and can now take shots where maybe before that was a question about him. But I went back and myself and Ian have a rewatch coming out this week watching the Chandler Oliveira fight. He took a lot of shots against Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
And if he does the same against Justin Gaethje, he could be in big trouble here, Graham, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think Justin can sustain it. He's shown he can sustain these kind of wild combination flurries for a long time. And I know Oliveira is a champion and he's looked really good, and I've picked against him a lot in the past, but and been wrong recently. But I think I picked him the last time. But anyway, I think he's gonna get knocked out here. I think it's going to be too much from Justin on the feet. I think he's going to land hard leg kicks. He's going to land body punches. He's going to land volume to the head. And Oliveira's definitely turned a corner in terms of his ability to kind of take damage and come through it mentally or continue on or whatever. But yeah, I think he's going to get overwhelmed here, and I think he's going to get put away.
I am torn in this fight a little bit, right? I think Charles Oliveira can either make this very easy for himself or he can make it very fucking hard for himself. If he goes out there striking with Justin Gaethje, he's going to make it very hard. I think that's what he's going to do, though. I think he's shown in recent fights that he kind of wants to prove that's what he can do now. And yeah, if he goes in there and gets a takedown, we've seen how bad Justin Gaethje's jiu-jitsu is awful.
Jiu-jitsu off his back is just atrocious. And maybe if Oliveira is smart to a game plan and goes in and gets him down, it could be a really quick submission. He could have him out of there in seconds. But I just think that Oliveira is kind of he's shown that he's willing to strike now, and I think that's going to be his downfall.
Look, if you're betting on this fight, and a spoiler alert for the betting job, but Gaethje by a knockout, Oliveira by submission, back the two of them and you'll be onto a winner here. I feel like it's going to be one of them. My Oliveira might
fight to finish in the first round. I wonder what odds that is.
Yeah, I'd rather be up there doing this. Pull that up and say, honestly, it's going to be an exciting fight. Now we talked about this before, and I don't think it made sense at the time to make it. And Gaethje might have got it back a little bit quickly and all that, but we can forget about that now. It's a great fight. Look, we can speculate who's going to win, how it's going to go. I think this is going to be a fucking brilliant fight, whichever way it goes, because it's going to be exciting early. These lads are not here to play tiddlywinks. These lads are not to come back looking at jabs and then looking at each other from the outside. Gaethje has become more of that recently, to be fair, but he kind of had to, I suppose. He was getting too wild there for a while, but this is going to be an unbelievable fight for as long as it lasts. It's going to be really fun, and I have said Oliveira by submission for a good while, and I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, I think this is it for Gaethje. He's got to go for it, and I think he's going to go for it early. And we've seen in the past how kind of relentless he can be, and I think he's going to hurt Oliveira early, and maybe Oliveira can come through that. He's definitely shown more of an ability to overcome bad situations and things like that than he has in the past. Absolute credit to him for that. But I just have a feeling, I don't know, maybe it goes against logic, but I just have a feeling that he's going to try and strike with Justin early, and I think that's going to be really bad for him. Obviously, them leg kicks from Justin will Oliveira's not really a takedown guy, but maybe the fact that Justin got so dominated on the ground, he'll be wary to throw them leg kicks, but I expect him to throw them anyway, and I expect him to throw them hard and a lot early. And if he can't put him away in the first round, and Oliveira gets, or he can't put him away in the first round and Oliveira gets a takedown, I think it's probably going to be a finish. But I just have a feeling that Justin's going to get it done.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'll go the opposite way. We'll put a $5 on it, Graham, and I'll gentleman's bet. We'll see who's going to win.
Yeah, let's do it.
One or two questions actually. Someone asked about Andy Young coming back as well. It was announced by Cage, he's coming back. Carl Moore is back as well. He signed with Bellator in a long-term deal, Graham. I know you've seen both lads fighting for a very long time. Good to see both of them coming back to MMA. Yeah,
absolutely. Andy Young, obviously, he's fought like the who's who, fought anybody and everybody, and his record is very up and down, and especially down recently. 5 losses in a row, but it's Daniel Barras, Ali Balagtinov, Brian Creighton, Sam Creasy. These are some tough guys, and maybe some time off has done him has done him good, made him, passionate again. If he's coming back, if he's coming back now, it must be for the love of the game. So, he's a difficult matchup for anybody. His wrestling, his shots are really good. He's really tough. He can strike. He has wins over people like Aaron Albee, Dominic Wooding in the past. Keith Cody, Steve McComb. His first pro fight was against Brian Moore. His second pro fight was against Decky Dalton. His third pro fight was against Alan Philpott. Like, you know what I mean? He's in there with some really good guys. And you look at his record, you may think, it's kind of like an Artem or a Neil Seery record at one stage, but they kind of proved that maybe, records are for DJs.
Indeed they are, yeah. Looking forward to him. And Carl Moore as well. I think he's come back at light heavyweight in Bellator, so it'll be interesting. They might have the biggest light heavyweight division in the world, and it's very hard to get fights at heavyweight or light heavyweight around here. So being with Bellator, it'll be more opportunities for him and everything like that. So very good.
A guy who was on the verge of being a double champion and going to the UFC and all this stuff, and everything can change really quickly. And his last fight was a win over Lee Chadwick in a split decision. And that was nearly 3 years ago now, so it's been a while for Carl Moore. If he's going to fight at 205, I think it's good to stick to one division. Going up and down, it just makes it more difficult, I think, when you try to go back down again. Maybe that was part of the reason why he ended up kind of getting derailed a little bit. But if you look at his record, that loss to Paul Craig back in 2015 in a fight that he was actually winning up until he lost. That's kind of the story of every Paul Craig fight, I suppose. But he got submitted in that one. But he's fought some good guys, and a couple of quick wins here. He'd be in contention for the Bellator title picture, I think, pretty quickly.
Yeah, indeed. He's the guy, like, they would love to do that as well. The Bellator love getting Irish guys up there quickly, and he's a big, strong, exciting guy. We'll see what improvements he's made as well. He's been down at SPG HQ for a while now, and they have the likes of Will Fleury there and Johnny Walker and others as well. So I'm sure having those sort of big guys there, which can only help and bring him on. So I'm looking forward to seeing Carl Moore back as well. Just another quick question here. We'll obviously answer the rest of them on the Q&A. If you have any questions, at SevereMMA Pod or over on Patreon as well, you can send them in there. I thought this was very interesting. I wanted to mention it. Dalton Sickney asked, do you think this is the ceiling for Cheeto Vera? And I actually think, I think it isn't after that performance from last night. I think he can improve on that performance, and he has improved on past performances with that performance. So I actually think Cheeto Vera can go on, and he can keep improving, and he can keep, getting better at this stage of his career. And maybe that's the thing I didn't think I'd be saying before the fight, but now I do. Do you think this could be a ceiling for him?
It could be the ceiling for him. I talked earlier about the confidence. If he can go in there and get another big win, I don't see him going all the way to the top, but I can see him being in really exciting fights for a long time. As you go up the rankings,
it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. It is really tough. Aldo, Dillashaw, Peter Yan, Sterling, even Sandhagen.
Yeah, he's already lost Aldo.
Yeah, it could be the biggest win he'll ever have, but time will tell, I suppose. But yeah, based on that performance last night, it looks like he's turned a corner. But sometimes it looks like it's a new dawn, and the next fight is kind of back to the old routine.
Well, I thought you were going to say something really introspective there. Sometimes it looks like a new dawn, but the next time it's dusk.
One of the what was it Eric Cantona said about the seagulls?
Yeah, the seagulls follow the trawler because they think sardines will be thin. That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. But yeah. We leave it there. Another long podcast this week. They're all turning into fucking epics at this stage, like the Iliad or something.
Speaking of the Eric Cantona thing, actually, 9 months for attacking fans. What do you think Ronaldo's going to get for attacking that kid?
I hope they get rid of him altogether. We need to start new. We've a new manager. Hope has arrived. Eric Tin Hope, I'm starting to call him. Going to be great. We got a draw against Chelsea last week. Fucking, it's all up and up for me.
He'll be drunk lying on the streets of Manchester in 6 months.
I wouldn't blame him, the poor old lad. But look, look, at least he's getting rid of Pogba and getting rid of Lingard and getting rid of fucking Mata and Matic.
So Pogba is getting rid of Man United, you mean?
Oh, no fucking harm. He can good luck. I never want to see him again. But yeah, anyway, before we go, actually, let me give a shout out to my guy Dev Fretz. He made me a logo for the Q&A, which as I mentioned will be out Tuesday. Absolutely great. We have a new intro as well for that, featuring the likes of James Gallagher and Ian Gary and Conor McGregor and Chad Dundas and Ariel Helwani and John Anik and loads more as well. So check out the Q&A if you haven't. I've a sneak preview of that intro and the new artwork as well up there, so shout out to Dave Fretz for that. If you haven't signed up for Patreon, please do. patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. We have loads of stuff there every week. The hot topic this week, Graham, you're going to be doing, I don't know who you're doing it with yet, but one of the lads needs to sign up. Maybe Harry Powell, maybe one of the lads you'll be doing it with. I'm sure you'll be talking about the big goings on of this weekend and no contests and everything like that. And we have Speaker's Corner coming up on Thursday as always. We have a rewatch coming up, I think, is it this week or maybe next week? But we have loads of stuff anyway, as always, over on Patreon, so please sign up over there. Help us keep the lights on. It's coming into the summer now. I'm sure you'll be driving around the place, going to beaches and stuff like that, so it's great to have an old podcast on in the background, and we have loads of them. I know I'm always running out of podcasts, Graham. I signed up for 2 Patreons myself this week, as you know, because you were kind of half paying for them.
Yeah.
So it's always great to have more podcast listens to. So sign up. It's only $5 a week. You pay a pint for that, and or $5 a month. Sorry, not $5 a week. What am I talking about? I think it works out at like 30 cents per podcast. Sure, Chase, you'd lose that down the back of the couch. You might as well give it to us. So yeah. SevereMMA.com/Patreon, Patreon. We leave it there, Graham. Have you an inspirational quote for us to
I have a song lyric.
Go on.
This is a Radiohead song lyric this time. All right. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it's there.
Beautiful. We'll see you next week. Tuesday, Monday, whenever. Good luck. Sunday.